The road. I was driving home from work late one night when I saw it. A figure standing on the side of the road, just outside the glow of my headlights. I slowed down, but as I got closer, I could see that it was just a deer. It turned and looked at me, its eyes glowing red in the darkness. I started to drive past, but then the deer stepped out into the road. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. I hit the deer head on. The impact threw me from the car, and I landed hard on the ground. I lay there for a moment, dazed. Then I heard a noise. It was the deer, crying out in pain. I got up and went to the deer. It was lying on its side, its legs twisted at unnatural angles. I could see that its neck was broken. I knew that the deer was dying, and I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I had killed it, and it was all my fault. I reached out and touched the deer's head. It was still warm, but its eyes were already starting to glaze over. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm so sorry." The deer closed its eyes and took one last breath. Then it was gone. I stood there for a moment staring at the dead deer. Then I turned and walked back to my car. I got in and started the engine. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. The deer was still there, lying on the side of the road. I drove home in silence, my mind racing. I couldn't stop thinking about the deer and how I had killed it. When I got home, I went straight to bed. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't stop thinking about the deer. I finally fell asleep, but I had nightmares all night. In my dreams, the deer was chasing me, its eyes glowing red. I woke up the next morning feeling exhausted and shaken. I didn't want to go back to the scene of the accident, but I knew I had to. I drove back to the spot where I had hit the deer. The deer was gone. There was no sign that it had ever been there. I got out of my car and looked around. The road was deserted, and the only sound was the wind blowing through the trees. I started to walk back to my car, but then I stopped. I thought I heard something. I turned around and looked back at the spot where the deer had been. There, in the middle of the road, was a single red light. The light was pulsing, and it seemed to be getting closer. I backed away slowly, but the light kept coming. I turned and ran, but the light was faster. It caught up to me and surrounded me. "You're lucky to be alive," the doctor said. "You were in a car accident." I tried to remember the accident, but my mind was blank. "The deer?" I asked. "The deer is gone," the doctor said. "There was no deer." I didn't understand. I had seen the deer with my own eyes. "But I saw it," I said. "I hit it." "There was no deer," the doctor said again. "You must have imagined it." I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I had imagined the deer or if I had really seen it. But one thing I did know: I would never forget the red light. I stayed in the hospital for a few days, and then I was released. I went home and tried to get back to my normal life, but I couldn't stop thinking about the red light. I started having nightmares again, but this time the deer wasn't chasing me. It was just standing there, watching me. Its eyes were still glowing red, and I could feel its hatred. I started to avoid driving at night, but I knew that I couldn't run away from the red light forever. One night I was driving home from a friend's house when I saw it again. It was standing in the middle of the road, just like before. Wait, Part 2.